Hey guys, happy Wednesday! Hi Aya, kamusta ka?
Hi, Jules. Hi, everyone. I'm good. Ikaw? How's
Okay
Wednesday?
naman. Parang ang haba ng linggo ngayon, Aya, no?
Yes!
Wednesday
So,
pa lang.
guys, welcome sa daldalang walang curfew.
Usapang di nala-lockdown. This is
So,
Quarantalk.
yes, it's
Ayan.
another evening.
Yes.
And, Jules, what's in for tonight?
Very important, I think itong discussion natin kasi we're talking about where our money is being used, especially in
Mhm.
this pandemic. So that's very important. Kaya naman, before that, of course, we'll discuss first some of the important issues na kinakaharap ng bayan natin ngayon. Dito lamang yan sa latest news.
Right. Jules, let's start with the latest tally from the Department of Health. Kamusta tayo sa COVID-19 pandemic?
Right. So from the DOH, our active cases for today ay nasa 47,587, total cases at 115,980, death toll natin at 2,123, and total recoveries at 66,270.
Yeah. Alright. Today, ang nadagdag po dyan ay 3,462 new confirmed cases. 9 deaths were added there. And 222 patients po ang naka-recover na rin mula sa COVID-19. Mataas pa rin yung number at 3,462 confirmed cases. Maybe later we can deep dive into these numbers and other matters, other data surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic and our response to it. But Jules, maybe let's go to some of the other issues that we've heard this week.
Right. Okay, simulan natin sa isa pang usapin patungkol pa rin sa pera ng taong bayan. And ito po ang anomaly sa Philhealth. Eh, ano bang background natin dito?
Right. Okay. So nagsimula na po ang pagdinig ng Kongreso, the Senate and the House of Representatives tungkol sa alleged irregularities and corruption sa Philippine Health Insurance Corporation or Philhealth. Although matagal ilang taon na rin nating naririnig yung mga balitang yan, this round of probe started when lawyer Thorson Keith quit his job as the anti-fraud officer of Philhealth dahil umano sa 15 billion peso fund na hinahanap natin kung saan napunta because allegedly there's a mafia, there's a group of corrupt high and low level officers, high ranking officers in Philhealth. Jules.
Right. And kanina nga in an interview on CNN, nabanggit ni spokesperson Harry Roque, and I quote, "My beef against General Morales is I have no evidence that he is corrupt himself. But when he was placed there by the president, our expectation is that he will take concrete steps to rid the agency of corruption. And yesterday, what worried me was that he admitted that the corruption was still rampant, and I did not hear steps that he has taken to remove corruption in the agency. That to me is the most worrisome." End quote kay spokesperson Harry Roque. So ito nga no, yung nagtulak sa both chambers of Congress and even Malacanang para silipin itong case anomaly on corruption dito sa PhilHealth, because in this time of a pandemic, syempre mahalaga yung tungkulin ng PhilHealth dito kasi nga sobrang gastos para magkasakit ngayon, at doon sana makakatulong yung PhilHealth. And lalabas yung mga news na overpriced yung iba't ibang mga computers, iba't ibang mga ginagamit nila, which is really worrisome and nakakagalit talaga, kasi imagine mo, just to take a test for COVID, sobrang ilang libon agad gagastusin mo, and you hear this news para lang maka-purchase sila ng computer sa sobrang mamahal. Parang
Mhm.
kumpanya bili nila.
Mm. Yeah, idagdag na rin natin dyan, no, the Presidential Anti-Corruption Council has recommended the firing or filing of cases against 36 individuals, officers of Philhealth. Totoo, Jules, nakakagalit. Imagine yung lahat ng tao, okay, hindi lahat ng tao, yung mga nagtatrabaho at nagko-contribute po sa Philhealth, at dun, yun lang yung inaasahan nilang health insurance, mawawala pa. And there are even news coming out that Philhealth could be in the brink of collapse
Yeah, by
because of
2021, no?
alleged
Tama.
by 2021, by 2022. And when you have a pandemic and you see PhilHealth um, plagued by these allegations and this corruption, hindi ko alam kung saan pa natin ilalagay ang anxiety and worry, no, ng mga tao. But let us see how this probe would go. Hopefully, this will shed light on questions and allegations, and hopefully mapanagot yung mga dapat mapanagot. Again, this is a developing story po. We'll see kung anong mangyayari dyan. But in the meantime, um, we request everyone to still watch the news and alamin po natin yung mga nangyayari so that our actions and our decisions will be based on facts also. Ayun, Jules, Guiang,
Okay.
next item
Yeah,
for
ang
tonight.
other news, yesterday, syempre, nagulat din ng buong mundo dahil dito sa isang pagsabog sa Beirut. Eya, ano bang details nito?
Right, okay. So, I think kaninang madaling araw natin naabutan itong balitang to na kumalat na rin sa Twitter, sa social media, ang iba't ibang videos ng nangyaring explosion sa Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. The explosion was caused by a warehouse fire. So initially, there was just a huge cloud of smoke. And then eventually, nagkaroon nga po ng pagsabog. And this damaged over half of the city. Over 100 people have been killed. Actually, pataas pa rin po ang bilang niyan. Also, at least 4,000 people were wounded. And
Mhm.
according to the Al Jazeera News, 300,000 people were left homeless.
Yes, and ayon naman po sa Department of Foreign Affairs, as of press time, 2 Filipinos were killed while 8 Filipinos others were wounded in this massive explosion in Beirut. And nabanggit din nila na the Philippine Embassy is in touch with the Filipino community in Lebanon to assess the situation and provide assistance to any affected Filipinos. So, ayan po, nakakalungkot yung nangyari diyan sa Beirut, pero from the end of the Philippine government, yan naman po, tuloy na po ang pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga affected natin na mga OFWs na nandiyan sa rehiyon na yan. Okay. Yeah. So our prayers of course go to the families na affected and of course our mga kababayan sa nagtatrabaho doon. Sana po ay matulungan po lahat sila lalo na yung nandun sa Greater Beirut, yung affected na area. Okay. So now Aya, we move forward sa pinaka-trending na topic naman as of yesterday. Dito lamang 'yan sa Quarant Trends. Of course, ano pa nga ba ang pinaka-trending? Walang iba kundi ang hashtag ostrich. Yes po, Eya.
Jules, ikwento mo kung anong nangyari. Ano yung ostrich in Quezon City? Do you have a video clip? Or ikwento mo na lang. Describe it.
We have a photo actually.
Okay.
Ayan, o 'di ba? Ang inakala nating aso na humahabol, kambing pala. O 'di ba? Meron pala talagang farm na nandiyan sa Quezon City. Actually, when I was younger, Eya, hindi ko alam ba't ako napunta dun sa area na yun. Pero may nakita kong isang house na merong maliit na lawn at nakita ko yung mahabang leeg ng mga ostrich. I'm not sure kung yun yung village na yun. Pero may dalawang mga ostrich akong nakita. And yesterday, on the loose na nga sa village mismo, dyan sa isang private subdivision sa Quezon City, na parang ah, kukuha ng ayuda itong ostrich na 'to at nagmamadali at may kambing din na sumusunod sa kanya. So, nahuli din naman nung mga security ng subdivision itong ostrich na 'to dahil ayon nga dun sa mga, research na lumabas, eh, napakalakas pala kapag masipakan itong ostrich na 'to, eh, puwede pang makapatay ng mga leyon or even ng mga tao. Kaya naman, buti na lang nahuli na at ang tanong actually ngayon, 'di pa tayo nakakuha ng update, kamusta na kaya itong mga ostrich na 'to?
Yes, Jules, actually, Jules.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
oo. Um, earlier today, may mga narinig din tayong iba't iba pang mga hayop ang nakawala sa iba't ibang parte ng Pilipinas na hindi daw normal na nakikita from from a pig to I think it was a carabao or a cow.
Sa cow in Iloilo, tas a piglet in Cebu.
Right. Oo, pero meron ding may clip din diyan na ano na hindi nakalabas ng subdivision ng ostrich dahil ibinaba ng security guard ang harang sa gate at sinabi ng security guard na hindi ka makalabas kasi wala kang gate pass. Ayan.
Oh,
So, kung
ay,
ano din yung
picture.
yeah,
Ayan.
it's a cute anecdote pero hindi ko pa rin alam, Jules, kung bakit may nakalabas na ostrich. And it really looked distressed. Hindi nakakatuwang panoorin po yung ostrich.
Lalo na hinuli na.
Oo, nakakatuwa lang siguro siya sa umpisa kung hindi normal na nakakita tayo ng ganyan. At dahil may mga gumagawa ng meme na grabe yung 2020, may ostrich na tumatakbo sa kalsada sa Quezon City. But I wonder what happened to the ostrich if it was safe.
And is it even allowed? Well, we're not sure about that. Pero, yeah. May ostrich ang Quezon City. Kung may squirrel sa south, may ostrich sa north. Okay. All right. I guess we need now to proceed to the meat of the discussion tonight. And of
Jules,
course, gaya
yeah.
nga ng nabanggit natin kanina, very important ang pag-uusapan natin ngayong gabi, Eya, dahil pag-uusapan natin kung saan nga ba at paano nagagamit. Saan muna? We track where our money is being used during this pandemic.
Yeah. So, Jules, let's go to our current think.
Alright. Eya, sino bang makakapanayam natin ngayong gabi?
Yes, so tonight po makakasama natin the brain behind this volunteers initiative called Citizens Budget Tracker. We have with us Ken Abante.
Hi, Ken. Magandang gabi.
Good evening. Magandang gabi sa inyo, Ea at Jules.
Ayan.
Right.
So talagang very important itong initiative na ginagawa nyo, Ken. Kasi yun nga yung tanong ng bayan, di ba? Saan nga ba napupunta yung pera natin during this pandemic? Okay, so we start. Let's talk about this initiative. So you started this initiative with a group of volunteers to help the public track how the budget for COVID-19 response in the Philippines is being spent. So, ano ba yung nag-prompt sa group nyo and from your end, personally, Ken, para simulan itong initiative na to?
So nag-start siya kasi siguro with a sense of frustration. Kasi nung umuwi ako dito sa Bicol, nung nangyari yung Luzon lockdown,
Okay.
meron akong mga kapamilya, meron akong auntie tsaka kasi na frontliners dito sa probinsya. Tapos, wala silang PPE. So, di ba, imagine na parang frontliner ka, tapos hindi ka nasusuportahan ng maayos. For me, I was very distressed, so we needed to do operations to get them PPEs with volunteer groups and private donors. Now, so okay, nabigyan naman sila ng PPE. Pero yung next question dun ay, sustainable ba? Paano masusustain yung suporta sa mga frontliners? And the next logical question to that is, nasaan yung suporta ng gobyerno? No? Because that's the only massive, parang the government has the scale to make sure that our frontliners are supported. So we started tracking. So after the Bayanihan Act was passed, syempre may Monday reports dati. Tumigil na siya noong June 29. We're kind of disappointed. But what we did was we tried to make sense of the report. So meron namang reports. And then, yung nangyari lang pagkatapos, so many friends also wanted to help. So all of us were asking, how can we help in this pandemic? So may mga auditors kami, may mga graphic designers, may lawyers, may mga finance and economics people na nagsama-sama. So ngayon actually, 60 plus na yung volunteers na tumulong sa amin at one point. To generate the tracker. So yun yung kwento ng volunteerism dito sa budget tracker.
That's interesting, no? Kasi we see people from different fields really coming together for this initiative. But now let's talk about the data. Ken, how did you collect this data and how do you process this? Walk us through the process.
Oo. So, yung proseso namin ay actually galing sa government din yung data. So, we get primary and secondary sources. Yung main source namin yung President's Report. Kaya hindi kami makapag-update na. So, yung last update namin June 29 actually. Kasi yun yung major source namin. Kino-cross-check namin yun with other government sources. And then, ayan, yun yung website namin. And then, yung tinatanong namin essentially, tatlong bagay. Kasi para sa amin, yung budget process, para siyang pagdidilig ng hardin. So, meron kang mga programa, yun yung hardin. Actually, tayo yung mga bulaklak. tayo yung mga halaman. Tapos, tagtuyot na ba sa hardin? So, dapat, we need to make sure that the garden grows well. Right? And in order to do that, kailangan diligan yung mga halaman. So meron tayong sources of water, no? So yun yung cash. Tapos meron tayong budget, meron tayong bucket. So linalagyan natin ng tubig, yung timba. Tapos yung timba yung pinapanggamit natin para diligan yung mga halaman. So the act itself of pouring the water onto the garden is the spending or the disbursement.
Okay.
So, normally kasi nako-confuse in the public debate kung kapag sinasabi nilang may pera, are they really talking about the water or are they talking about the bucket? So, they confuse the two. So, kaya namin nagamit yung imagery na yun para kapag dinidiscuss namin, we can clear up the confusion immediately with a concrete image.
Right. And sakto pa yan kasi ang daming mga EA, 'di ba, nahilig sa mga plants ngayon. So talagang makaka-relate sila during the pandemic. But I want to focus here on this part of the website kasi syempre 'di ba, we want to know kung up to what extent na yung na-cover ng inyong research. Pero ito yung parang gusto kong i-focus Ito, yung timba, gaano kalaki? Sinabi niyo dito we should move on from the 275 billion which is always 'di ba in the narrative. So ano 'yan? Sige, pwede mo bang i-illustrate sa amin kung magkano ba talaga so far yung nagagastos na ng pamahalaan base dun sa nasilip ninyo?
So ayon nga dyan sa report namin, so 2/3. So for every two-thirds of the budget has been spent. So the budget is not, so yung size ng bucket hindi yung tubig. Yung size ng bucket ay 390 billion pesos including Philhealth. I think lalaki siya given a new DBM report. We haven't been able to update our public tracker. Kasi June 29, June 30, I think June 30 sinubmit ng DBM yung bagong report. So for comparability, 390 billion yung ginagamit namin ngayon. Tapos yung nagastos nun, so yung tubig na naidilig ay 246 billion pesos. So 2/3 ng budget yun. So yun yung parang big figure. So may 1/3 pa ng budget na hindi pa na-suspend as of June 29.
So then, nasilip namin yung ibang mga numbers na meron sa website and even the raw data from like a shared Google file of data. But tell us about the challenges. I know malaking issue sa data. Even the Department of Health has been saying different challenges in processing this data and everything. On your end, with this initiative, what were the challenges that you encountered as you go through this process also? And maybe you can also give us some idea on the limitations of this research.
Thank you so much. As in, actually, isa yun sa mga gusto namin talagang i-communicate. Kasi meron kaming tatlong limitations sa dataset. So yung first is we rely on official government sources. Dahil quarantine at di rin kami pwedeng mag-physically check, hindi rin talaga posible to do that. So we serve as, I think, an aggregator and sort of like an analyst of the data that's publicly reported without the spin, without the political spin that's put on the data. So we try to make sure that we're academically honest and about the limitations of the information. Yung second thing is we're not we're not yet sure, even until now, about how the health budget is being spent. I think DOH is trying to report the health budget, pero until aggregates pa yung kaya namin. Hindi pa namin kaya talagang mapunan yung parang bawat isang validated dataset. Kasi in doing these types of things, and especially as a principal sa auditing, no, essentially checking accounts, the question you ask is, what is the most basic dataset that you can get so that you can cross-check yung big number that's reported with like all of these little things. So I'll give you an example. So example ay social amelioration.
Yes.
So nasabi nila, actually sa first tranche, hindi lang 18 million yung nasa social amelioration, 30 million yung beneficiaries sa social amelioration, of whom around more than 90% na yung nabigyan. Kasi hindi lang DSWD yung social amelioration, kasama yung DOLE, kasama yung farmers assistance, sometimes forgotten in the public narrative. Pero ngayon, 'di ba, we need to find where those 30 million beneficiaries are. So there are two ways to go about it. One, and we don't have the resources to do this, pero you can do a random survey, check across the Philippines kung nabibigyan ba talaga ng ayuda yung mga tao. There are survey firms that are trying to do this, so it's their comparative advantage, so to speak. So we'll let them do it. Pero yung ginagawa namin ay tinitingnan talaga namin yung mga pangalan kasi yun yung pinaka-basic na dataset. Kaya lang, nung tiningnan namin, kahit within the DSWD dataset pa lang, somewhere between 2 to 3 million names pa lang yung na-publish sa DSWD website. So ang call nga namin ay sana ma-publish yung dataset na to, so para magkaroon ng community verification process, para yung mga kapitbahay pwedeng tingnan ito ba talaga yung tamang naka-receive nun. And we'll let the community audit. Kasi isa sa mga mahirap, for example, na nahihirapan yung DSWD and social welfare officers ay yung parang deduplication ng listahan. Para sa amin, pay now, verify later dapat kasi gutom yung kalaban eh.
Right.
Diba? Dapat may ibigay yung ayuda kaagad. Bayaran tapos i-verify ng community and then make sure that the aid is given at the soonest possible time.
Right. Okay. Ken, I wanna emphasize lang the fact na for our viewers din, no? So basically, the data is coming from the government. So what your initiative doing is you're trying to at least laymanize or make these data understandable to the public, 'di ba? Yun yung ginagawa ninyo eh. Basically parang mas ginagawa nyo pang transparent. I'm not sure kung may lack of transparency from the end of government. You can say maybe you could answer that Ken later, no. Pero yun yung ginagawa nyo na mas magiging understandable to the viewers. But my question right now is, so far when your initiative started, kamusta yung impact na nabuo nitong initiative ninyo from the end of the government? Mas na-pressure ba sila na mas bilisan? May feedback na ba kayo from government?
So yung approach kasi namin sa budget tracker, we really try to make sure that we enter conversations with government in a very collaborative way na parang ang principle kasi namin, and because I was also in government for 4.5 years, I know there are lots of silent workers inside government who are like just doing the good work that public service is supposed to provide. So lagi kaming naghahanap ng sino ba yung susuportahan namin within the career service. And we try our best to support those officials. So yung impact namin, tinatry namin, for example, sa transparency pa lang, I think our version of the transparency provision is in Bayanihan 2. So nahihirapan kasi yung public to understand, and kami actually nahihirapan din kami to collate everything, and then marami kasing sources. But there's actually an existing format that government agencies can already use na you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's called the BESF table, parang Budget of Expenditures and Sources of Financing, which I think in a set of tables, mabibigay yung kung ano yung nire-report namin in a more accurate way. So we're calling for that. That's in Bayanihan 2. The second thing that we're trying to do in terms of pushing for some transparency is siguro there are pronouncements, I guess, that are made that kind of cause some public panic na parang walang pera raw yung gobyerno, na hindi totoo kasi may pera yung gobyerno. In fact, by the end of June, 988 billion pesos yung net cash raised ng gobyerno. So marami. May pera tayong panlaban sa COVID. And we have to demand more information about how that money is spent. And especially ngayon, entering the Bayanihan 2 debates, we've spoken very strongly and publicly about this. Kulang yung 140 billion sa Bayanihan 2. It appears kasi that may limit daw yung pera na pwedeng maibigay. Pero yun nga parang even within the cash operations report of government, and even within the power of the purse of Congress, we can spend more so that we can recover. Kasi a lot of what our trajectory in economic recovery ng Pilipinas over the next few years will be determined by the next 5 months. And if we don't spend enough or even try to budget, halimbawa sa transport, to prevent crowding and to make sure our transport workers have pay with benefits, as in we'll have a very, very hard recovery.
All right. So Ken, so far, what would be maybe your call to action for people who would be seeing all this data on the website? Do you have any call for citizens' participation maybe on how they can better use this data and maybe understand it? Yeah.
So kami, very excited kami sa parang pag-roll out nito. A few weeks ago, we rolled out a local budget tracker with Gumaka Quezon. Yung ginawa namin, since we tried to offer some technical assistance sa kanilang very dynamic team sa Gumaka Quezon. So thank you, Mayor Webb. So yung ginawa nila, they presented their municipal budget. So, hindi lang yung locally sourced revenues nila, kahit private donations, nilagay nila, kahit yung individual donors na nandoon, kahit yung individual purchases ng municipality, nilagay nila doon. So, for me, para sa akin, sana mas maraming citizens who can do that local budget tracking with them. Like, feel free to coordinate with us. My Twitter handle is there. You can message me. Happy to work together on this. And sa tingin ko kasi there's no shortcut to transparency you have to at it. Oo. Kailangan talagang trabahuhin siya on the local level. So yun yung una namin ginagawa na call to action. So let's make more local budget trackers. So yung ginawa namin with that experience naman with Gumaka is we sent that Gumaka Cares Tracker, yun yung tawag nila sa budget tracker nila, sa Bureau of Local Government Finance that determines the financial reporting of LGUs on COVID. So I think they're incorporating it in their national reporting standard. So I think we're happy about that, and the fact that the BLGF executive director is also very open. So thank you, Alvina. So pangalawang ginagawa namin ay procurement. So currently actually, meron ding publicly available data on procurement. Di ba? Hot issue siya ngayon eh. In the Government Procurement Policy Board website, GPPB.gov.ph, I think there are around 11,000 purchase orders and contracts. The challenge with that data though is hanggang contract level lang yung amounts. So I think when I eyeballed the estimate, parang mga nasa 30 billion yung nandun. Maybe we can talk again by end September, but we're going to release a paper on this procurement information. yung challenge doon, and this is something that talagang kailangan ng very deep technical work. So we're working with many volunteers on this, is to disaggregate or parang ano yung mas specific pa na data. Hindi ka kasi pwedeng mag-compare lang ng contract level price eh. Kailangan naka-itemize yan. Hindi ka lang pwedeng magsabing PPE, ganito yung presyo, versus PPE, ganito yung presyo sa isang kontrata. Paano kung iba yung quality ng PPE, di ba? Conclude that something is overpriced if it's a contract level comparison. So yung ginagawa namin, ini-encode namin yung bawat item na nasa purchase order. May iba parang 20 yung nandun, 43. So nag-risk-based audit kami nung procurement information. So we're very excited. I can't share more about it because we're very careful about what we say publicly so that there's no public panic. But you can be assured that by end September, we'll have something to share.
Okay. Ken, super commendable itong ginagawa ninyo kasi that's very important lalo na kapag naglalabas lang. I mean, you check the websites of budgets at titingnan mo. Parang sometimes it's very very intimidating yung dating for the people. So maganda yung ginawa niyo sa website niyo kasi you're trying to at least alam mo may gap kasi of understanding the data. So maraming salamat sa grupo ninyo at mas pinapadali nyo na intindihin ng taong bayan itong data na to. Siguro on a last note, Ken, no? What's in the future for this initiative? Do you plan to expand? Do you plan to offer professional services to local governments or other departments or agencies? Kasi what you're doing now, I think it's really expensive kasi that's really skill set na
May mouse here actually, tapos lagi niya ako minatulita. Ano ba yan, Ken? Pro bono ba yung ginagawa mo?
You went all the way to Harvard, tapos ngayon you're doing pro bono. So, what's in the future with this initiative?
So unang-una siguro so on that comment lang na parang we really do work hard to make sure na parang simple talaga siya, but a lot of the thinking behind how you make user experience happen was because we also know that limit namin yon as parang financial analysts. Hindi kami marunong to simplify things in a visual way. Okay. So yung mga katrabaho namin dito, mga graphic artists, sina Smile Indias ng information design program, marami sa kanila talagang ang galing-galing dito sa si tinatatayap. Marami super fans kasi ako nila talaga sina Noel Martir. Napakagaling nila talagang gumawa nun. So actually, props to them. They're the team that really made sure that there's a graphical representation of this. So on the item about like what's next, ngayon actually we think this is very serious work na ang framework ko kasi of volunteerism in COVID-19. Many of these things are organic. Para siyang, alam mo yun, you don't really expect to be paid for these things because it's just something that needs to be done. Otherwise, parang mawawala tayo sa siguro sa bearings natin with things like where's the money going? Are we really panic? Parang is our panic warranted? mahalagang mabigyan ng facts, ng common base ng facts yun. So yung pinaplano namin ngayon actually sa procurement data for those that require super deep technical work, yung ginagawa ng mga funding agencies actually like development partners is actually approaching us and saying, hey, we want you to keep doing what you do. Please continue doing what you're doing. And we're very thankful na meron kami mga partners na ganun. Yung Hivos Southeast Asia, for example, is one. WeSolve is another. It's a firm that does collective impact organizing. And they're the people who are, for me, like very committed to the public service. And may mga current talks kami with some other development partners that will help us continue doing our work. Lalo na since the deep technical work really does need also just compensation, especially for our volunteers. So I think mas parang pumupunta kami doon while at the same time getting that parang we don't want to be, kailangan independent pa rin yung view. So we're very conscious about ownership. We're very conscious about academic integrity. So we will not be parang influenced parang our commitment is to reporting what we think is in our best professional judgment to be the state of the country's budget. So yun, we're very conscious about those influences. Tapos, we want to continue working with journalists. So, para sa amin, nasabi ko nga sa'yo, Jules, and yeah, it's also our stand for press freedom.
Right.
So when ABS-CBN closed, our group was super sad. As in, we were really upset. And the next day, when ABS-CBN requested an interview, sabi namin, okay lang, sige, let's accelerate our work and make sure that ABS-CBN journalists are supported. Or like Rappler journalists are supported. You're supported, Jules. So para sa amin, napakahalaga ng trabaho ng journalists. And this is our little contribution to making journalists work easier in these terrible times.
Thank you so much for all the work that you do, Ken, and the group. Actually, it's very helpful, no? Marami sa mga journalists, they're skilled storytellers. But I think niche pa rin yung mga kaya mag-analyze ng data. We do investigative journalism also, but iba pa rin talaga when you work hand in hand with analysts and experienced, experts in the field. And thank you so much for sharing your data and your skills. Purong public service. Ayan, maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
Salamat from the Citizens Budget Tracker Initiative. Thank you.
Thank you din sa aming volunteers. Hello sa kanila.
Thank you. We'll try to regularly siguro feature some of your new data dito sa show kasi it's COVID related and it's very important. Okay. Thank you, Ken.
See you soon. See you soon. Bye.
Alright. Ayan, Eya. And sa mga viewers natin, ayan, no, ang ganda ng ginawa nila, Eya, kasi yun yung very important, 'di ba, na beyond the usual sound bites na 277 billion something, 'di ba? Kailangan mas maintindihan natin kung saan yung masalimuot na process na napupunta at nagagasta yan. And through this website, yun nga yung pinakita natin kanina, it's way to better understand things on how our money is being spent during this pandemic. So thank you to this initiative.
Right. And ang nakakatuwa dyan, this is a collective action from different individuals and groups also who support this transparency initiative, which is very crucial when we are in a pandemic and public trust is kind of dwindling amidst all the uncertainties. So there again, guys, if you would want to check out the tracker, you can find it here at covidbudget.ph.
Okay.
There.
Ayan
Alright.
ang ambag ng kanilang grupo. Ano naman ang featured na ambag natin dito sa Ano ang Ambag Mo? Okay, Eya, anong featured ambag natin for tonight?
Right. Okay. So the search is again open for the 10 accomplished youth organizations. It's on its 18th year. And you can, they're looking exclusively for youth groups and organizations na may quarantine of COVID-19 response. So again, marami pong mga organizations, groups na may ambag sa pandemyang ito. If you have any efforts to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic o sa sitwasyon ng mga tao at komunidad sa gitna ng quarantine, you can submit your application to Tayo. There is a prize, I think, Jules, 50,000 pesos for the finalists. Also, please mind the deadline. It's on August 18. Also, let me flash the application form. It's at here. Ayan, yan po yung link, guys, on your screen for the application form. Or you can go to their Facebook page, 10 Accomplished Youth Organizations, or Tayo. So again, the search for the 10 Accomplished Youth Organizations in the Philippines is open, and the deadline for applications is on August 18. That's the link to the application form, and this time, they're zeroing in on the organizations and youth groups who deserve recognition for their volunteer work and response to this pandemic. There.
Yan,
Jules.
sali kayo tayo. And of course, may isang pahabol pa tayong ambag mula naman sa ikot.ph as a sign of support sa lahat ng ating mga small businesses. Tutulong pong ikot para ma-promote ang inyong mga small businesses. So please fill up this online form para magawan kayo ng mga publicity materials at ma-promote ang inyong mga small businesses. At dyan po, nagtatapos ang ating usapin ngayong gabi. Pero syempre, ano ba ang abangan ng ating mga viewers bukas sa Throwback Kasaysayan at sa Friday?
Yes, so bukas, Jules, ang usapan natin. So, itong tungkol sa social revolutions. Abangan po natin yan sa Throwback Kasaysayan, 9 p.m. here on QuaranTalk Media, kasama si Professor Guiang ng UP History Department. And tomorrow night, Thursday night, August 6th at 10:30 p.m., we are launching our new show, Inuman with Ties and Rafi. Baka namimiss nyo na ang mga inuman kwento, inuman session, but this is a E with the letter E, then electronic, virtual inuman tayo dyan. Pero ang pag-uusapan natin ay syempre ang mga nangyayari sa ating paligid at kung ano-ano pang kwentuhan na nangyayari sa virtual inuman. So again, that's 10:30 p.m. August 6, Thursdays, 10:30 p.m. po yan, after Throwback Kasaysayan. And on Friday, Jules, ano ang meron sa QuaranTalk?
Right, we're partnering with the KKK, isang organization po. At syempre, ang pinakatumpok po natin mga kwento ng pag-asa sa gitna ng pandemya. Okay, mamaya sa pagtatapos po natin, papasili po namin sa inyo itong opening billboard ng Inuman with Thais and Rafi. And of course, ang ating station ID. Eya?
Right. So guys, kita-kita ulit tayo dito sa daldalang walang curfew.
Usapang di nala-lockdown, ito po ang
QuaranTalk. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/QuaranTalk Media, and on YouTube, QuaranTalk Media.
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Jules Guiang.
Yes, I'm on Twitter at @Aya_Antonio and on Instagram at @Aya Antonio. Thank you so much and see you again on Friday.